Okay, I had 6 of you this morning. 9 people took the test on Thursday. 2 in here hesitate, that's 11. I know, what was her name? Lindsay dropped because she was pregnant. She didn't have to drop. She could have stayed here and then had the baby a week and came back or video live stream. But she may be having trouble, I don't know. Then I think we lost Susan. She probably could make better on the test than anybody in class. But it scared her to death. And said she'll try it again later. She does that. So hopefully again next year. But anyway, the test was hard. Grades were not good. You do have a drop grade, first or second test probably be the one. Chapter 15 is not that hard, but it is the last hardest chapter. From then on, they do get easy. The last 2 tests should be a lot easier for you. So anybody can make a good grade on the last 2 tests. And use one of these, the best grade out of these 2, and you can still get a good grade out of this class, which I hope you will do. But on this test, may have been a combination of 3 things. Number 1 is a hard test. Number 2, you all can study more. Number 3, maybe I can taught harder. I don't know. But it's a combination of the 3 that the grades were all that great. Now, we have a couple of people here that hasn't taken the test. I said I would not give a makeup test until the end of the semester, but I'm going back on that because I have 2 people that had good reason they couldn't take the test. At least 2, may have more later, but so I'm going to give them a makeup test. So I will not go over your test until the end of class. And I'll cut off live streaming and we'll go over your test. So I believe you do need feedback as soon as possible on a test. I always try to get them back to the next class period, not always, but try. And the test I give, I guess I could make it easier on myself and give all multiple choice and Scantron them. But when you go through these problems and journal entries, it takes a spell. What heck. So, but I do believe in trying to get them back to you. Now, we're on another chapter. Put chapters 1, 2, well, tests 1 and 2 behind you, chapter 11, 12, 13, 14 behind you. Let's concentrate on chapter 15 and 16. Now, 15 is invested in other companies. 16 is a statement of cash flow. And we may have to add on 3 chapters per test on the last part. But I'll let you use certain things on some of these last tests. When we get to ratios, I'll let you use ratios. So let me see if I can bring my PowerPoint back up. On principles. Now, our first investment in this chapter is buying bonds. Now, you can even follow with me in your textbook on these PowerPoints. You will go to page 723. Now, these PowerPoints is following with your book. We are buying bonds. We debit investment, bonds. We debit interest receivable and credit cash. Why do we debit interest receivable? We purchase bonds at their face amount plus accrued interest for 45 days. The bonds have interest of 6% payable in July and January. So they paid interest in January. Well, February was 28 days and March was 17. 28 and 17 makes 45. 45 days have elapsed. You're going to pay for that interest if you buy those bonds now. If you bought them on January 31st, it'd been okay. You would not have had interest receivable. So you calculate the interest for 45 days, which you can do now, 18,000 times 6% times 45 over 360. Everybody can do that. No, you can. And credit your cash then for the interest plus the price of the bonds. All right, when you receive 6 months of interest, remember 45 days of that's interest receivable. And the rest of it's interest income, but you get a check for 540. So you got 235 back that you paid for. And the only interest income then is the other days, the other 4.5 months. All right, now that's all there is to bonds in that chapter. You have to make an adjusted entry, same thing. Here it was for 5 months, I guess, 5 over 12. And you debit interest receivable and you credit interest revenue. Because you got 5 months, you don't pay these to January 31st, which makes 6 months. And now when you do get the check in January, some of that was interest receivable, that was interest revenue for the past year, for 2016. The only interest for 2017 is for 1 month or $90. Okay, interest revenue. Now that's your bonds. All right. That's a timeline on your bonds. Now we may have to sell these bonds. And if we sell them at 98, we multiply the book value of the bonds, 18,000 by 98. So we may lose on the bonds. So turn to page 724, bottom of the page, and you have these same illustrations in your textbook. If you miss them on PowerPoint, you can go right back and look at them. So we're going to debit cash, and we're going to debit loss, and we're going to credit investment. If the sale of the bonds were between interest date, interest accrued, that's the last payment, so you'd be collecting cash for interest revenue. I don't think they're going to push that at you. All right, here we purchased some more bonds, and at 100 plus accrued interest of 500, they calculate the accrued interest for you, and they want you to do 3 entries. All right, on a blank sheet of paper, see if you can practice these 3 entries. On a blank sheet of paper, it's not an exercise in your book. So let's see if you can journalize those 3 entries. Take a couple of minutes. You at home should be doing this too. You start in your book on page 723, and that first entry is like page 723. Second entry would be like on page 724. The third entry is the bottom of page 724. It'd be like number 3 on page 725 since it has accrued interest. Number 3 on page 725. Okay, now how much cash did we get from that bond, Jonathan? Oh, no, wait a minute. We're selling. How much cash we get? 40,000. Add the interest on to it.
The first one was purchase. 40,500.
All right, and how much of that was interest receivable? 500.
Yeah.
And then the bonds. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. That's not the one I needed. Come in, guys. I guess I needed this one. What was our investment in those bonds? We paid 40,000. My mistake. I had the wrong entry here. And the interest receivable was how much? 500. And then we paid out cash of 40,500. All right, we're just trying to reconstruct that entry. I don't even know. That's not given to you probably in your book. I didn't see it. Now, to reconstruct the next entry, what does it say part 2 is? To receive the
first semi-annual interest.
All right, and how much is the first semi-annual interest? 6 months on that bond. How much is it?
Like, of the entry?
Well, now I have to go all the way down here. Right, I have to go all the way down and look at that example. Somewhere.
Like, I have the journal entry.
All right, we looked at this entry, right? We just recorded that, correct? So I wanted this one.
Oh.
All right. Now it has 10% interest. The bonds were sold at 100. That's insignificant. 10% interest is 5%. So what is 5% of $40,000? What's 5%? 2,000. Okay. 10% would have been 4,000 divided or multiplied by 6 over 12, which would still been 2,000. All right, let's get some more figures while we're here before I go back and try to scribble in the answer. All right. We sold 30,000 for 102. So what did we sell those $30,000 worth of bonds for? 30,000 times 102 is how much? How much?
30,600.
All right, plus accrued interest of 110. So we're going to receive $30,710 for those bonds. Now keep these figures in mind. Let's go back and make the journal entry. Okay. All right, here's the one that did not work. That's the one we need. Now, how much interest did we receive? Was it 2,000?
Yes.
Okay. And how much of that was interest receivable that we bought? 500. So what is our interest revenue? The other 15, right? So it's not hard to make interest for buying bonds. Remember, we're invested in bonds. Now we're going to sell these bonds at a gain or a loss. Now, we sold those bonds. We just calculated the cash. How much cash are we getting? All right, we're getting 30,710. Now, the bonds were on the books for how much? 30,000, right? Now, we had interest revenue, which I don't have here. So I'm going to have to credit, I'm going to credit IR for interest revenue. How much did it say that was? 100 and what? 110? Now, what is the difference between 30,710 and 30,110? It's 600. That 600 is a what? It's a credit, so it's going to be a what? Credit is a gain. So we're going to put gain on sale of bonds. And it's a credit. So your debits have to match your credits. Now that's selling a bond. And that brings us over to stock. Now here's the entry you were just looking at. It's the one I should have went by. Debit cash, credit interest revenue, credit gain, and credit investment. So please study those. Please practice the exercises I give you. Now, we're going to buy stock. It's important to know this, the 20%. If you buy less than 20% of the stock, it's called the cost method. All right, we buy stock, we receive dividends, we sell stock. That's all there is using the cost method, less than 20%. If we buy stock, just debit investment, credit cash. If you pay a broker's fee, add that on. We paid $49.90 times 2,000, and we got to add on the broker's commission of 200. So our investment, I was wondering how it come out to even 100,000. But 49.90 times 2,000 plus 200 is 100,000. Our investment is 100,000. Now, how many shares of stock did we buy? How many did we buy? 2,000. Now divide 2,000 into 100,000. How much do you get per share? What's 2,000 into 100,000? Monica? $50. Now, how much do I have invested in that stock? $50 a share. If I sell it, I'm selling stock that I paid $50 a share for. Because you added on the brokerage fee, it ran that $49.90 up 10 more cents per share. All right, so I bought stock on the equity cost method. Now, when I receive dividends, I just debit cash and credit dividend revenue. And when I sell bonds or stock, if we sold this stock for $54.50 a share, take out the commission, and you cleared $81,590. All right, how many shares of stock did you sell? Now multiply 1,500 shares times $50 a share. That's what we have in it. 1,500 times 50. How much is 1,500 times 50? Better get 75,000. All right, so we had a gain on the sale of stock. Now that's all there is to the cost method. Greg, do you have a current textbook? Got an old edition. Still probably about the same. In fact, I know you have the same thing. It may not be laid out the same. All right. So you sold stock. You made a $6,590 gain. Now, the person who bought this stock, he got revenue from two places. Where's the two places? Hey, you know that, don't you?
Okay.
Oh, now you're looking at one place. We got revenue from what right here, Cole? We made money when we sold the stock. Called a gain, isn't it? But before we sold the stock, what did we get on it? Dividends. So we made money in two places. Okay, you can do that with stock, but you also can lose. Okay, that's the cost method. We invested in bonds, now we invest in stock, and now we're going to invest in stock. And we're going to purchase this much. Now we purchased over 20%, less than 50, we got a significant influence. We got a vote. Now that's the same as we had, come here, Maya. That's the same as if we had 5 partners and one of them owns 20%. He's got 20% vote, don't he? They own 40%, he's got 40% vote. So you got a significant influence. Now, what's the difference between the cost method and what we call the equity method? Come in, Anthony. Cost method and equity method. All right. The difference between, now Anthony, you haven't taken that test yet either, have you? When do you want to take it? After class today? I said I wouldn't give a makeup, but
Yeah,
I
I
had
know
two
you said-
people with two good reasons.
Yeah, I know you said what's the
I know, but I'm going to because quite a few had to miss and 2 of them had good reasons. Are you here tomorrow?
yes.
What have you got at 12 o'clock tomorrow?
Class ends at 11:50.
All right, good. Okay, I'm giving a makeup test at 12 o'clock. So meet me up here at my office. I'll probably open up this room. Well, no, Mr. Crow gonna be in here. I'll open up 209. And there'll be 3 of you then taking the test. Okay. 3 or more. If anybody out there hears me, you haven't taken the test, show up tomorrow, 12 o'clock, somewhere around room 209. Okay, so this is the equity method. And Gregory, for you all that came in late, I'll go over the test at the end of class. I'll quit broadcasting and I'll let these 3 people go that haven't taken the test, of course. All right, under the equity method, investment account is adjusted for your share of the net income. That's the difference. And you don't have dividend revenue. Okay, so we invest, same old entry, with debit, investment, credit, cash. But this is where I told you to keep a T account last Tuesday a week ago. We started this chapter. And when if you owned, the company had 105,000 income, you'd do 40% of that. So you debit your investment, it went up, and you credit income, 42. And then when you receive dividends, your investment goes down because you're getting some of your investment back in cash. You got cash to put in your bank or in your pocket, you credit your investment. Now you should have kept a T account. We bought the investment, we added to it when we made income, we subtract from it with a credit, and that would be your investment account. So on a test, please keep a T account. So this is the equity method. All right. We had those trading securities, bonds. Then we had the cost method. Then we had the equity method. And that starts on page 727. What I went over is on page 728 and 729. Now, consolidations. This book is not dealing with consolidations. We'll save that for advanced accounting. I don't even think it's an intermediate. But now, you folks majoring in accounting, I think there's one of you left. No, we have a few left. Don't give up. Makes you work harder, sure. But there's so many good jobs out there in accounting. And I got a thing that I gave one of my accountants to. I've got a student in cost accounting, taxes, and VITA. I've got her in 3 classes. You can't give her a test that she can't make 100 on. I don't care if statistics or business finance. I don't care if it's Dr. Sneed or Dr. Moore. You can't give her a test that she don't make an A on. She might not. I'll take that back, perfect 100. Mine, she makes 100 on, and I don't think she's ever had a test that she made less than an A on in any class. So she's gifted, that's for sure. And she works 40 hours a week. She has a baby. She's a single mom, and she drives a long way to school. So pretty good, isn't it, Haven? But you know, everybody's not blessed the way she's blessed with. Well, she studies, sure, but I don't think she has to study much. She don't have time. So she's taken about 18 credits, and she's raising the baby herself. You know, her family's not raising the baby, and she was a manager of some kind of restaurant, but she got into accounting, and she's already working in accounting at 40 hours a week. There's just good jobs out there, and I know all of you can make it. If you don't learn something real well in principles, you'll learn it better in intermediate, because intermediate repeats principles, but it goes a little deeper. Okay? All right, so if you sell your investment, you debit cash, you credit investment, but you got to know what's in that T account. And that's what I've been alerting you. And like I say, the equity method is between 20 and 50%. And once again, you got to look at your ownership. Look at your examples. Consolidations, we don't fool with. Consolidation, I'll just mention this subsidiary company. A lot of big corporations have a lot of subsidiary companies, whether it's General Motors or Chrysler or Ford or even Walmart, they have subsidiary companies. But consolidation, just to make it real short, it's like having some money in your left pocket and some money in your right pocket. It belongs to the same person, don't it? Okay? Consolidation is about the same thing. If a company has a subsidiary, the money belongs to the parent company. All right, the last part of the chapter, trading securities or debt and equity securities that are purchased and sold to earn short-term profit. Your bonds was trading securities. Some of the other stock you buy might be short-term trading securities. But now, here is the thing about securities. Now, assume Maggie Company purchased a portfolio of trade securities. That's short-term. On December 31st, the cost of fair market value of securities were. All right, this is all stock. This stock costs 5, but it's worth 72. This stock costs 11, but it's worth 75. That's a loss. This stock costs 8, but it's worth 10.6. That's a gain. If you add up your fair market value and you add up your cost, you still got a gain of how much? Take the difference. How much of a gain do you have? All right, now that's a book gain, and it's on a paper gain. It's like Bill Gates, probably the richest man in the world one time. It was paper. His stock was worth 90-some a share, and he owned a bunch of shares. It's on paper. He's lost a lot of that when stock goes down and gains it back when stock goes up. But in taxes, you don't have a gain of $1,300 until you sell that stock. But in accounting, you might want to account for it. But $1,300, I thought it was 15. I guess I didn't subtract 13. You debit valuation allowance, 13, and you credit unrealized gain on trading securities. Unrealized gain. All right, so that's the entry at the end of your chapter that you'll need to work on. And how do you report that? How do you report all these things on the balance sheet? Cash, trade investment cost, plus valuation allowance of that $1,300. You are adding it on to your balance sheet. You're calling it an asset. But you could also have a loss. Here we had a loss of $2,400. Here we had that gain of $1,300. Now, available for sale securities. Available for sale means you may hold them long term, but you still got a $1,300 gain here. And what's the difference? Not much difference in that journal entry. Your debit valuation allowance available for sale, and your credit unrealized gain or loss. So those last entries in your text are pretty much the same. All right, Cole, what was your exercises that were due today?
Was 2 and 3, 8 and 9, 11, 12, and 15, 16.
All right, your exercise due today was 2, 3, 11, 12, 15, 16.
Yeah, 8 and 9.
I left 2 out. Okay, folks, if we don't get to go over all these today, since we're going to go over the test at the end of the period, we will get these Thursday, so please work on them. Now, I want to add to those for Thursday's assignment. If you don't do these, you'll get behind. You'll get lost totally on this chapter. I want you to do exercise 17. $17, $22, and problem 1A and 2A. So we're adding on exercise 17, 22, problem 1A, problem 2A. Now that's for Thursday. So we got a lot to do Thursday. Okay, we might be able to get, we only got about 10 more minutes of class. Let me see if I've got solutions real quick. I know I've got PowerPoint.
Eight, nine, 11, 12, 15.
All right, we're going to try to look at 2 or 3 of these pretty quick. Now, we looked at one a week ago on Tuesday. We bought investments and paid cash. We received interest revenue. This is the most simple situation. We sold those bonds for 97. Remember, decimal 97 times 7. So we lost 2,100. Okay. And on D part, this was last week. We debit interest receivable and we credit interest revenue. That's accrued interest for 2 months, or 2 over 12. Now, your exercise that was due today was real similar. All right. It was almost a copycat of that same exercise. Exercise 2, you debit investment, credit cash. You debit interest receivable, credit interest revenue for 3 months of accrued interest. December 31st, adjusted interest. Chapter 4 in this text was adjusted interest. We still have them once in a while on payroll or interest. All right, when we receive the bond interest, what is 5% of 160,000? Somebody multiply that real quick. What's 5% of 160,000? What is that, Jonathan? 8,000. 5% is for a year. So how much would 8,000 be per year for 6 months? What would it be? 4,000. 4,000. So that's where the 4,000 is coming from. All right. But if it's 3 months interest, it's half to 4,000, which is 3 over 12. This is 6 over 12. This is 3 over 12 and 3 over 12. So you credit interest receivable 2,000, interest revenue for 2. You're getting this interest revenue up here, the adjusted entry. Are you going to sell the bonds? $60,000 worth of bonds, but you're going to sell them for 102. Means you're getting 61,200 cash, so 1,200 that's a gain. Now that's exercise 2. You got good examples in your book. You got plenty of exercises to practice on. You can get this. You can do this. Exercise 3. All right, we bought bond with interest already on it. We had to calculate 40 days of interest. We're buying that interest. That's called interest receivable. We're adding it on to the price of the bond, and we're paying out cash for $120,800. When we get this interest, which is 3% of $120,000 for half a year, we debit cash. We got our interest back, $800, and our real interest revenue is the rest of the money, which is $2,800. Now you're going to sell some of this investment, and it's got interest on it, and I don't know what you're going to sell them for. You're going to sell these bonds at 99. So the most money you can get out of them is $29.7. You're going to pay the broker $100. So the most you can get out of them is $29.6. However, whoever buys these bonds is getting $150 worth of interest. And they owe that to us. So we add 150 on to 29.6. So we're getting the cash, we're crediting the interest revenue, and the difference was a loss. Now we're going to look at 11 and 12 pretty quick, then call it a day. Now, please practice some of these exercises between 3 and 11 if you have time. More good entries on bonds. We'll practice some of them in class if we get time one day. But here it's pretty easy. We buy stock and we credit cash. All right. All right. How many shares did we own? What is 480,000 divided by 1,200,000? Somebody tell me how much that is. 480 divided by 1,200,000. What percent is that? 40? 40. So multiply 750 times 40. So this is the equity method to start you out with. So you debit cash and you credit investment because you got that much dividend. And whatever their income was, you get 40% of 2 million. You debit investment and you credit income. Now, can somebody look at those three entries and tell me what you have in your investment account? 14 million and how much? How much is left in your investment account? How much is it, Haley? I'm hoping you'll surprise me. You can. Oni, how much? 14,900,000. Now, Jonathan, tell us how she got 14,900,000. That's correct.
Take that plus subtract the 300,000 and add the 800,000.
That's all you do. Add 8 minus 3 gives you 500,000 difference. Okay. All right, and 12 we'll look at real quick. Debit cash, investment, credit cash. Here the same deal. Dividends, you debit cash, and decrease your investment. And here the same deal. Company had a loss, you debit your loss and you credit investment. All right. Now those who haven't taken the test, you can go ahead and leave. I'll see all of you tomorrow at 12, Anthony. No, that's okay. I'm just eyeballing it. Okay, I'm going to stop broadcasting for today.